Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Met His Soulmate Tenten Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. Tenten fell onto her fluffy mattress, sighing. She looked out of her window and at the clouds. The clouds are nice to look at. They always look the same, always feel the same, and always act the same. Her eyes then went to the picture of her team sitting on her mantle, next to several kunai and shuriken. She chuckled at the sight of Rock Lee and her sensei, Guy, in the exact same pose and smiled sadly at the sight of the scowling Hyuga Neji. And then her eyes passed over to herself, the nobody, the person who blended into the background. She wasn't strong and she wasn't beautiful, at least, back then. Now she had blossomed into a beautiful woman and into one of the most valued and skilled kunoichi of her generation. But she still longed for that one special person. Her fingers felt the gold locket worn around her neck, a reminder of her first love. Neji, how I used to idolize you, just like Sakura and Ino idolized Uchiha Sasuke before he became a traitor. But then I finally got to know you, and I was finally working up to a proposal when Neji had been forced into an arranged marriage with his cousin Hinata a year ago. He had fought with Hyuga-sama persistently and fiercely, but he then threatened to excommunicate Neji from the Hyuga family, which would mean Neji would lose his Byakugan and all of the techniques that he required it for. He had fought at first mainly out of hatred of his cousin, but then he later fought because we belonged together. And it was that day, the day I was to propose to him, that he gave me this necklace, a symbol of his love. I was so happy, but then he informed me of Hyuga-sama's threat, and my spirit was broken, for a time at least. She then inhaled the sweet scent of strawberries mixed with sake from the scented candle in her room. It was held in a special place, the sake bottle that Lee had cut the top off of and had given it to her when they were friends, really good friends. Lee, you always were an odd one, ever since our first day together as teammates. With your green jumpsuit, humongous eyebrows, your bowl cut and your eerily radiant smile. Even though you were odd, you were always kind. Especially when I became depressed after Neji broke the news about his engagement. You had taken me out for dinner that one time after I refused to leave my house except for missions, you had rehabilitated me. You made me truly happy, at least, I thought you did. I thought that we could have a happily ever after ending, like in the fairy tales. But, like in real life, happy endings never come, do they? Silent tears fell down her cheeks as she remembered the mission. It was Lee's and hers first B-ranked mission, and their first mission as Chunins. They were assigned to attack a group of Iwa nins that were information regarding Konohagakure to Otogakure. It turned out that there were more Iwa nins than they expected, and her, Lee, and another Chunin, Yatsubum Rei, were outnumbered by 3. The 3 of them were able to kill one each before anyone became seriously injured. Then Rei had been incapacitated by an earth jutsu, the only person who knew extensive first aid had been knocked unconscious. Somehow, the duo of Tenten and Rock Lee had defeated 2 more ninjas, with only 1 ninja remaining. However, they had underestimated him. None of their jutsu could even scratch him. Tenten was preparing a fireball when the ninja used an earth jutsu that caused a watercourse of mud that rushed under her feet, knocking her off balance. She was heavily damaged and another strong jutsu would probably mean the end for her, and Lee wasn't that much better off. The Iwa nin then used the Kaiden Karyuden, a jutsu she had only ever heard of being used by the former Sandaime Hokage against his fight with the Sannin Orochimaru. A dragon head came up from the mud and spewed out flaming balls of mud at Tenten. She thought how life was too short and how she wished she could have been noticed more, like Sakura or Ino. She prepared for the scorching flames to engulf her, but it never came. She opened her clenched eyes to find Lee in front of her, completely scorched. He had taken the fatal blow as a scapegoat for Tenten. He then fell to his knees and whispered something to Tenten. He told her that despite his death, she should let the fountain of youth engulf her mind and body, and then he fell limp. At that moment, only one emotion ran through her veins, and it wasn't grief, it was pure malice. The wish to mutilate the person who could do that to the person she loved and not feel any regret about it. She then used a jutsu she had been experimenting for quite a while. Kaden, Nensho Shoshoryu. She used her scrolls to summon her vast artillery reserve, and like with Uchiha Sasuke's technique, she used a Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu to set the chakra strings connecting the weapons together on fire, which eventually spread to the weapons, giving her an array of flaming shuriken, kunai, katanas, and wakizashis. It took maybe 5 minutes for the enemy to catch on fire from the flaming weapons. Tenten recalled her artillery and basked at the sight of her friend's killer die a slow, painful death. She then left, battered and bloody, for Konohagakure, somehow carrying the corpse of her dear friend and her unconscious teammate. Rei had retired after that mission, Guy had never smiled again after that mission, and Tenten had never loved again. That is, until now. Her mind wandered to the certain boy on her mind. All of the villagers seemed to ignore him and spite him, but for what reason she had no theory on. Everybody acts like they know him, but they don't. Not even his friends do, because his friends aren't really his friends. His previous sensei had literally given him away. His friend Sasuke tried to kill him for his own twisted reasons, and Sakura never liked him in the first place, and now only mourned for the loss of dear old Sasuke. Godime Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama, and Iruka-sensei are the only ones who know him, if only a portion. However, nobody truly knows him, because he's like me, nobody seems to know him, but everybody claims they do. I wonder if he watches the clouds too. Maybe we're both watching the same cloud but we don't even know it. She once again peered out her window to find that the clouds had congregated and started to look very menacing. She sighed and thought about him, the mask wearer, the deceiver, the one who knew one knew. Uzumaki Naruto. How I long to know what's behind that mask of yours, Naruto-kun. Do you even know who I am? She wondered aloud. Tenten, Neji-san is here. Her mother called. The 17-year-old Kunoichi jogged down the steps, jumping over the last two. Tenten-chan, greeted Neji, with a smirk. Neji-kun, replied Tenten, smiling. Hinata-sama just delivered our first child, Neji announced, for once in his life smiling and not smirking. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Neji-kun. What did you name it? Inquired Tenten, ecstatic at the news of her friend's news. Hinata-sama named him. His name is Hyuga Lee, smiled Neji. Tenten's eyes held back tears mixed with happiness and joy at the news. Happiness of Neji allowing his wife, Hinata nonetheless, naming their child, at Hinata commemorating the child after Neji and Tenten's old teammate, and sadness out of remembrance of Lee's death. Did you tell Guy-sensei yet? Asked Tenten. I was hoping you would come with me, suggested Neji. Of course, answered a smiling Tenten. And so the two walked to Guy-sensei's house to give him the news, when they passed a certain somebody. Tenten smiled at him, and he smiled back. She then turned her gaze up towards the clouds, which were starting to turn slightly less dark. Is something wrong, Tenten-chan? Inquired Neji. Nothing's wrong, I was just looking at the clouds. I like looking at the clouds. They never kill each other, they never hate each other, and they never cast one another out. Uzumaki Naruto was watching the clouds slowly go by through a window in an all-white room laying on an all-white bed with red sheets. His right leg and left arm were supported by slings. Next to the all-white bed with a simple table that held only one object, a bouquet of carnations given to him as a get-well present from Hinata and Neji, well, mostly Hinata. She had just written Neji's name on the card for politeness. She's probably the closest friend I've got right now, she's 8 months pregnant and yet somehow manages to get me this gift. Damn it, I need to get out of her to get her some kind of present for her baby. As Naruto let his mind drift off towards thoughts of the pale-eyed Hyuga, a certain pink-haired medic nin walked into the room. Hey, Naruto, how are you feeling? Asked Sakura, almost laughing as if she were intoxicated. I'm so sorry, Sakura-chan. I'm so sorry. Naruto said nothing in reply, he just kept his gaze transfixed upon the sky. Naruto, is something wrong? Asked Sakura, now sincerely worried for her teammate. Gomen, Sakura-chan. I'm so sorry, whispered Naruto, keeping his gaze fixed on the clouds that he admired so very much. Naruto, what do you have to be sorry about? You've just completed your first A-class mission. In fact, I'm surprised that you're not jumping off the walls in excitement, teased Sakura lightly. Her words said that she didn't know what the blonde boy was talking about, but her eyes betrayed her. Her eyes were expecting this for a long time. Sakura-chan, I couldn't keep my promise, sadly apologized Naruto. Sasuke is dead, he almost whispered the last three words. He was waiting for Sakura to break down crying and weeping, but the sobs never came. Instead, he felt her inspecting his wounds. I'm so sorry Sakura-chan. I'm so very sorry. He repeated these last two words over and over again in his head, thinking that swallowing himself in pity for Sakura would get rid of his own pain and grief. Eventually, she finished checking and retreating all of his wounds, without letting a single tear fall. Sasuke would have been proud of you, Sakura-chan. Before Sakura left, he remembered Sasuke's dying wish. Oi, Sakura, called Naruto, flashing one of her trademark grins. Yes, Naruto, asked Sakura. Before he died, Sasuke wanted me to tell you that despite the things he said to you when we were children, he always thought you were beautiful. Sakura could tell it pained Naruto to say so, and she smiled a smile laced with grief. Arigato gozaimasu, SP, Naruto, softly said Sakura. She then left the room as if she were in slow motion. Just another scar to add to my substantial collection. There was nothing you could do, Kit. No, there was. I could have tried to talk with him. I could have. He would have killed you. No, he changed. I know that he did. Get it through your damn head. It was either you or him, and the stronger of the two survived. Why though? Why did it have to end up like that? Why couldn't he have just come home, damn it? You can't change the past, Kit. You know that is better than anyone. I know, but it just hurts so damn much. I'm fed up with your complaining. You're a ninja. Learn to deal with the death of a comrade. I still don't know why he was so important to you. He just treated you like every other half-wit in this village, like garbage. Naruto had no response to Kyuubi. Doing so would just irritate old scars, not the flesh ones, but the ones that imprint themselves on your very soul, the only kind that Naruto had, and he had plenty of them. One such incident was always at the back of his mind. You are garbage. You will never be anything more than garbage. You have never been anything more than garbage, shouted a 16-year-old boy, punching with immense power after each statement. It had been going on for 10 minutes now, and the boy and his friend's victim was sporting 2 black eyes, several missing teeth, and was bleeding from various places. The victim's eyes were begging for this torture to stop, to leave him be, but it seemed like they felt that he deserved more, that he deserved this feeling of helplessness and weakness. His eyes darted from side to side, looking for a savior, a sanctuary that would save him. And then his eyes found someone, a boy his age with raven black spiky hair wearing a blue shirt with the Uchiha symbol on it. Their eyes locked, and the boy walked away, as if he hadn't seen the boy or the living hell he was being forced to live through. The boy lost all hope of being saved. His eyes seemed to lose their life as he realized that he was going to die. Hold him up, grunted the first boy. His 2 cronies each held one of the victim's arms as the leader moved into a taijutsu pose and brought his knee up, hard, into the young boy's jaw, cracking it. Just do us all a favor and die, you worthless piece of garbage, sneered the leader. The cronies let Naruto sag to the ground. The leader then picked Naruto up by the collar of his shirt and threw him against the dead-end wall of the alley they were in. He hit the wall with a sickening crack and slumped down onto the ground, consciousness lost. Naruto shivered at the remembrance of that particular incident. Now all he wanted to do was to watch the clouds continue their slow procession across the sky. It's been harder and harder to wear this mask. 2 weeks later. Naruto had just gotten out of the hospital and he had never felt better in his life. Neji had informed him that Hinata and him had chosen him to be the godparent. Don't know if they actually have them in Naruto, just pretend they do. He had gotten out of a horrifyingly boring stay at the hospital, and it was his birthday. He had celebrated by buying a certain food that he hardly had the privilege of eating. Ice cream. He had been saving up his spare money that weren't spent on hospital bills, electrical bills, rent on his apartment, or food just for this occasion, because the owner inflated the price 500% whenever Naruto had ordered the cold, tasty treat. He was currently walking towards the Hyuga estate with a shoddily wrapped package under his arm. Before entering the gates, however, he finished his chocolatey treat and devoured the cone in one bite. He entered the front gates and knocked loudly on the front door. Even though Naruto had next to no social graces, he knew how to act at the expansive Hyuga estate. Soon enough a maid answered the door and Naruto politely asked if he may have the honor of talking with the Hyuga heiress. The maid grimaced at the sight of the demon brat at her door, with a chocolate-coated mouth nonetheless, but she knew how Hinata felt about him. She briskly turned around and led Naruto towards the Hyuga heiress's room. Hinata-sama, Uzumaki Naruto here to see you, expressionlessly announced the maid. Once she saw the door open, she briskly turned around and walked away, secretly disgusted with Hinata being friends with this demon. Hey Hina. Naruto couldn't end his greeting however, as two arms wrapped around his midsection, hard. Naruto-kun, what brings you here? Greeted Hinata with one of those rare Hyuga smiles. Hi, Taiyo, your crew, shing my ribs, choked out Naruto. Ah, Gomen Naruto-kun, squealed Hinata, reverting back to her old habit of pushing her fingers together and blushing. Hinata, come on, don't go back to old habits, exclaimed Naruto. Before Hinata was forced into an arranged marriage a year before with Neji, Naruto and Hinata finally found their relationship to be blossoming. Hinata had eventually worked up the courage to ask Naruto out for a date. The relationship was shaky at first, but after the first couple of dates, Naruto and Hinata had officially declared themselves a couple. It was a cold February night when Naruto had spent all of his life savings on a fancy dinner and a pure gold ring. Naruto had planned to propose to Hinata on that night, but his heart had once again been broken. Hinata had told him that she had been forced into an arranged marriage with her cousin Neji. Even though Naruto felt angry and depressed, he kept his cheerful facade on and congratulated Hinata on her finally being officially acknowledged as the Hyuga heiress. However, Hinata had broke down crying, because she finally had her dream come true. Only for it to be stamped out of existence by her father. Naruto had held her in his arms, feeling the exact same feeling as Hinata, but couldn't allow himself to show it, for if he had, his facade would have been destroyed, and he would never be Uzumaki Naruto, just the demon brat, the Kyuubi. And over the past year and a half, Hinata had finally come out of her shell, if only a little bit. She could now talk without stuttering most of the time and only reverted back to her old ways if she was embarrassed. The two Chunin then entered Hinata's room, with Naruto still holding the unnoticed package under his arm. Hinata slowly sat down onto her bed as to not disturb the baby she was currently holding inside her and signaled Naruto to sit down next to her. Hinata-chan, I have something I want to say to you, grinned Naruto. Yes, Naruto-kun, inquired the blue-haired girl. Congratulations, yelled Naruto, his wide grin somehow getting even wider. He held out the package and Hinata accepted it, but was staring at it oddly. Aren't you going to open it? Asked Naruto, his grin faltering slightly. I hope she likes it. Hinata cautiously opened up the spiky package and found within it a stuffed bear. It wasn't fancy or cute, it was just brown fabric stuffed with cotton with two black button eyes. She expected nothing less than a perfect gift from him, and this is what that bear was, simplistically perfect. Naruto-kun, it's, AGHH. Hinata suddenly felt a strong, Sharp pain in her stomach and on instinct brought both of her hands over to it. It's coming, slowly panted Hinata. Now? Asked a bewildered Naruto. Yes, now, panted Hinata. Naruto quickly, but carefully, picked her up bridal style and ran through the open door and down the hallway of the Hyuga Manor, hopefully going towards the exit. During Naruto's mad sprint, he came across an obstacle, namely one Hyuga Neji, who blocked the hallway, causing Naruto to skid to a stop. Naruto, what do you think you're doing running around like a madman with my pregnant wife? Asked Neji, more than slightly ticked off. Hinata, room, present, she's having the baby. Naruto finally got out of his mouth. Give me Hinata and you go tell Aburame, Inuzuka, and Kurenai, bluntly commanded Neji. But, protested Naruto, he then saw the Hyuga's eyes start to go Byakugan. Fine, but I'll be back soon. He smiled as he disappeared with a poof of smoke after slowly giving Hinata to her husband. But what was behind that smile would surprise even Hinata. That bastard Neji always steals Hinata-chan away from me. Someday, I'll get my revenge on him. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he found and delivered the news to all of Hinata's team members. Once he had finished, he decided to go inform Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji as well. A good 4 hours later Naruto was eating his ramen, once again staring at the clouds. How peaceful they look, I've always wanted to be like a cloud. Naruto sighed as he set down his half-eaten ramen. Naruto-san, are you alright? You've never not finished a bowl of ramen, inquired the waitress, Ayame. I'm fine Ayame, I'm just thinking. Could you give me my bill please? Asked Naruto. Sure thing, perkily said Ayame. She left and then returned with a bill. Naruto reluctantly paid the bill and then left, heading off towards Sakura's house. As he walked towards her house, he passed Neji and Tenten, walking off somewhere together. He made sure to flash one of his signature grins, and he received one back from Tenten, but Neji showed no acknowledgement of him being seen. She can't fool me. I know that her smiles are a mask, just like mine are. I really should get to know her better. I mean, I don't even know her clan name. Maybe, like the masks we wear, we're the same inside. I wonder if she likes the clouds too. Naruto finally arrived at the doorstep of the Haruno household and knocked on the door. He could do nothing else but wait for the pink-haired Kunoichi to invite him in. Her eyes were dead, they held no emotions and no thoughts. Her body was sprawled out on her lacy pink bed, face turned up to face the baby blue ceiling, and her normally immaculate pink hair was hanging in greasy strands over her face. Her pillow was soaking wet from the tears that fell from the girl's eyes the previous days, and her clothes were worn and soiled. Her ears picked up some muffled talking from behind her door and, as if on cue, walked in her best friend, Yamanka Ino. Ohio, forehead, girl, greeted Ino in awe. Her friend had never looked so bad in her life. Sakura, you have to get up. I'm hopeless, just like he said I was. I can't even get over his death. I'm so damn messed up it's not even funny. Sakura's eyes just stared plainly at the black-clad Yamanaka girl. It's almost time for his funeral. Get up, take a shower, and get dressed, commanded Ino. Sakura didn't move. Ino then pulled her off the bed by her arm, Sakura giving no resistance whatsoever, and her body fell onto the floor with a loud thumping noise. Ino became incredibly pissed at the fact that her friend, her best friend, couldn't get over the fact that her childhood crush died and refused to even go to his funeral. Damn it, Sakura. Can't you just get over it? He wouldn't want you to be this miserable, he'd want you to be happy. And he certainly wouldn't want you to not go to his funeral. So get up off your ass and live before I make you live. He was right, I'm hopeless. I'm weak and I can't do anything without help. Sakura just looked back at Ino with the eyes of a broken soul, empty and alone with no purpose in life. Ino just glanced disgustedly at her friend. Fine, Sakura. Don't come, but I won't pity you if you feel bad about it later, threatened Ino. She whipped around and walked out of her friend's room, slamming the door behind her. Hopeless, weak, worthless, hindrance, that's all I am. A weak, worthless, hopeless, hindrance. Sakura shakily got onto her feet and stumbled into her bathroom. She then undressed and took a shower. She then exited, still damp, and put on a long black gown. It had black embroidery lace around the waist and silver, shining silk outlined the entire gown, making it appear to be shining. Sakura then put on a necklace, a silver chain with a sakura flower made of white gold, so that it draped right above her chest. She then impassively left her room and made her way towards the front door, where her mother was waiting for. She smiled sadly as she observed that her daughter was wearing the same gown she wore to her father's funeral. Haruno Kiyoshiro, A.N., not Sakura's father's real name. I don't know what it is, so I made it up, had died in his sleep a year prior. He had been 38 years old and was a respected man in the community. Both Harunos were depressed for at least a month afterwards, hardly interacting with other people unless it was necessary. The two Harunos walked side by side to the funeral, basking in the sound of silence. Sakura carried with her a bouquet of black roses, her mother with a bouquet of crimson roses. Her mother looked unbreakable in body and spirit with her simple black dress, pearl necklace, and Hittite wrapped around her arm, while Sakura looked like a fragile china doll with her elegant gown, silver Sakura necklace, and Hittite worn on her arm. It seemed as if the Harunos were the last of the villagers to arrive at the funeral as they saw the small congregation of people paying their respects to the Uchiha ninja. The only person who wasn't there that knew Sasuke well was Konoha's #1 hyperactive knucklehead ninja. The two Harunos waited on a surprisingly long line to pay their respects for the Uchiha. Finally, it was Sakura's turn to pay her respects. She laid her flowers directly under Sasuke's photograph. I love you, Sasuke, but you were a selfish bastard, even after death. You said that the thing you wanted most in life was to avenge your family. But was that your true motive, or did you just want to prove that you were stronger than your brother? You left us, Naruto and me, you left us here, all alone without a second thought and hardly even a goodbye, leaving us to wallow in our sorrows and fears about you. We've waited, and now you've come back to us after all of these years. But somehow even in returning you mock us, Sasuke, whispered Sakura softly so that only she could hear the words she spoke. She stood over his grave for several minutes before leaving to find her friends. After several minutes of searching she found the remainder of the Rookie 9 minus Naruto and Guy's team minus Lee. So you decided to come after all, forehead girl. Teased Ino. Sakura-chan, you look so graceful, complimented a morose Hinata, an emotion not seen often on the Hyuga heiress's face. Thank you, Hinata. You look pretty good yourself, thanked Sakura softly. The group stood together in silent remembrance of the Uchiha, whether in respect, love, or disdain, Sakura in all three of these. Hopeless, weak, useless. Before he died, he told me to tell you that he always thought you were beautiful. I'll prove it. To me, to them, to him, that I'm not useless, that I'm not weak, and that I'm not hopeless. I always used to think that he would be there for us, and that eventually he would come to love me, but that was just a naive wish of a child. I'm stronger now, and damn it, I'll show him, even if it kills me. But first, to discover the truth. Neji quietly asked Sakura. HN, replied Neji. What were his last words? Asked the pink-haired Kunoichi. His final words were to make sure that Itachi dies and that his sacrifice to help kill Orochimaru and Kabuto would not be in vain, spat Neji. So it was a lie. I thought that it sounded out of character for him. It was that monster's fault that the Uchiha prodigy is dead. If it weren't for his presence, he would have come back, and he probably would never have left in the first place, disgustedly said a voice. I can't believe that he's still alive, and a ninja at that. He should have been killed the second the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi in him. After hearing these horrible words, the ninja lapsed into angry silence. How dare these closed-minded people who never even tried getting to know Naruto talk of him as if he didn't deserve to live. The Rookie 9 and Guy's team had ignored those people, whose population grew smaller by the day as they came to the realization that they were wrong. But now, speaking about him like this at a funeral, Sasuke's funeral especially, crossed the line, and the first person to become unable to contain themselves from punishing them was the person no one expected, not even that person, Sakura. "How dare you talk about Naruto like that?" whispered Sakura. "After all he's done for this village, and after he had to persevere through all that this village has made him suffer through, how the hell can you possibly talk about him like that?" Sakura's voice level rose with every word, until she was almost screaming out the words. Then she started get control of her voice, and what she proclaimed shocked everyone. "Sure, he's not Sasuke. He's not the smartest person, or the strongest person, but he's everything that Sasuke wasn't. Happy-go-lucky, cheerful, respecting, acknowledging, and he never goes back on his promises. That's why, I forgive him. Naruto, if you can hear me, I forgive you. I forgive you for killing Sasuke. In fact, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you, that I made you make promises you couldn't keep, and for making you so damn sad." She cried. She then sank to her knees and sobbed, and for probably first time in her life, not out of self-pity, but out of pity for another, Naruto. The clouds then released their own tears at the funeral of Uchiha Sasuke, quickly leaving everyone wet. The villagers who had insulted Naruto fled the second that Sakura started shouting out apologies, for they didn't want to be attacked by one of the strongest kunoichi in the city. Sakura stayed on her knees in the mud, seemingly unfazed by the downpour. However, she snapped back to reality as a strong hand firmly grasped her shoulder. Her tear-filled emerald eyes met the blank canvas of Hyuga Neji's eyes. He then extended a hand towards the mourning woman, and she gladly accepted it. She then rose up from the mud and walked alongside her friends to go get some food at a nearby barbecue restaurant. "I will become stronger, I promise you that, Sasuke-kun. I will become stronger, and then I'll be able to rightfully mourn your death." And at that moment, the clouds stopped their deluge, and returned to being the fluffy and innocent incarnations that they were. 2 weeks later, Sakura had changed. She now gave every thought towards how to better herself as a kunoichi and a person, and this had its effects. She was now considered the best medic nin in Konoha, besides Tsunade and Shizune of course, and she found that after all of those years of obsessing over Sasuke, she failed to recognize the traits of everyone around her. She found out that Shino was actually quite sociable when he was dragged into a conversation that interested him, that Choji was one of the kindest and most considerate people she has ever met, and that Kiba is actually quite sympathetic and encouraging, given the chance to be so. She had become close friends with all three of the shinobi since Sasuke had died. Also, she had done something that she should have done years ago. She stood up for someone too weak to defend themselves. Earlier that week, when she was departing from the hospital, she had found several of the older academy students beating up another younger one. She only had to alert the students of her presence before they flew off like vultures from a carcass. She mentally gasped as she bent down to examine the younger child's wounds. First off, he had several broken bones and injuries to his lungs and pancreas, and second, he was the Uchiha Sasuke reincarnation. They had the same hair, the same build, and the same eyes, except this boy's was filled with trepidation and apprehension of the medic nin crouched above him instead of condescension and authority. Sakura just smiled, and that was all the recognition the boy needed before he fell into bliss unconsciousness. She had healed the more serious wounds and had taken him to the hospital, where she placed him into a room to be held overnight. When the boy awoke the next morning, the first thought in his head was to thank the pink-haired ninja. Sakura was brushing her shortened hair when she heard someone knocking on the door. She sighed and reluctantly left her vanity and walked off in a low-cut red t-shirt, baggy navy blue pants and black sandals. When she opened the door, her eyes met those of the person she had not seen for over 2 weeks, Uzumaki Naruto. "Hey Naruto, what brings you here?" cheerfully asked Sakura. "Before I say anything, Sakura-chan, it's okay with me if you detest me for what happened, morosely stated Naruto, hanging his head. I don't hate you, Naruto. In fact, Sasuke's death has helped me in a way, but I doubt you came all the way to my house just to tell me that, prompted Sakura. Hinata-chan's in labor, one happily announced Naruto, flashing off his trademark fox grin. What? Asked Sakura. She was completely caught off guard by the blonde-haired shinobi's announcement. I said, Hinata-chan's having her baby. Now can we go so I can see my godson an? Once again, I know that it's used mainly in Christianity, but I don't know if there is an equivalent for that for whatever religion the Naruto peoples practice. Asked Naruto, obviously very anxious to leave. By the time Naruto had finished complaining, the pink-haired kunoichi had already left her house and was on her way to the hospital. Come on, Slowpoke, you'll just slow me down if you just stand there. Half hollered, half giggled Sakura. Naruto grinned widely again and ended up running after Sakura to catch up to her. To think about it, Hinata bearing Neji's child. I would never have believed it if I wasn't at their wedding, and I still thought that the wedding was unreal when I was there. Well, if anything, I'm happy that they've grown on each other and that they get to experience being parents. For now, I can only dream of raising a family. I'm only just reaching my prime as a kunoichi and I'm still recovering from Sasuke's death. I'm not going to have a family. But I swear to you, Uchiha Sasuke, that I will live long enough to have a child, no, several children and live happily with you in my, which is what I hope you would have wanted. And with that thought, Sakura looked back, grinning at her foxy friend and looking up to the clouds that were ever changing, so not even Kami, too, himself would know what their next actions. Tenten-chan, why you lost the ball again? Whined a young girl. How can we play bounce the ball if you keep missing it? Don't worry, Umi-chan, I'll go get it in no time, cheerfully replied a much younger Tenten, her hair let down to below her ears. She was wearing a short lavender dress that extended down to her waist and a darker purple skirt that just barely covered her knees. Purple was her favorite color when she was 8 years old. She ran as fast as her legs could take her into the dark, narrow alleyway where their ball rolled. As she scanned the alley, her attention immediately shifted to the small boy leaning against the far wall. What are you doing alone in a place like this? Inquired Tenten, moving closer to the boy so she could get a better look at his face. As she walked closer towards him, her feet made small splashes in the puddles she walked through. Are you going to hurt me like them? Whimpered the boy. He was curled into the feeble position, but it was too dim to see anything else about him. Who's them? Cautiously asked Tenten as she drew ever nearer to the figure. As she was approaching him, she began to see blood splattered on the walls and on the ground. Some of it swirled in the puddles of soiled water, creating a dark red solution that creeped the young girl out. They are the ones who did this to me, the villagers. They always do this. They treat me like a toy that no one wants, a toy they have no use of and needs to be thrown away, answered the boy quietly. At that age, Tenten had never thought that it was possible for the villagers, her neighbors, her friends, her protectors, to be able to act like that towards such an innocent boy. She ran the rest of the way towards the boy and embraced him tightly, knowing to some extent the feeling of loneliness, of emptiness. She had felt like that ever since her father's death the previous year, and she felt that it was something no one should feel. She began to silently cry for the boy as she noticed that the blood decorating the alley walls belonged to the boy and that it matted his blonde hair down to his scalp. Please don't cry for me. I am the only one who has to feel this way, pleaded the boy, who had never felt a hug, never felt wanted, or needed. This just caused her to cry even harder and tighten her embrace on him. Tenten-chan. Tenten-chan. Neji had barked out his friend's name, breaking her out of a reverie, albeit a painful one. Yeah, Neji-kun, responded Tenten. Have you seen either Naruto-san or Sakura-san? Inquired Neji as he attempted to become accustomed to holding his newborn son, who was unnervingly silent, but he couldn't succeed in hiding his anxiousness. Next to him, Hinata slept peacefully on the hospital bed placed in the center of the room. Around the room, various members of the Rookie 9 and Guy's team were conversing or just observing Neji attempting to hold his son comfortably. No, I can't say that I have Neji-kun. I mean, besides that one time when we went to go retrieve Guy-sensei, answered Tenten truthfully. He better come. It means everything to Hinata for him to witness what she considers her main accomplishment in life. And if he doesn't show, I'll go and hunt him down myself, thought Tenten. She had become quite close to the Hyuga heiress lately, to the point where they could consider each other best friends. Konnichiwa Mina-san, boisterously exclaimed a certain blonde-haired shinobi as he slammed open the hospital room's door, which caused many pairs of eyes to shift their attention to him, and also caused a fist to come crashing down on his head, hard. Baka. Can't you see that Hinata-chan's sleeping? And what if the baby was asleep? You seriously need to grow up, hissed Sakura angrily. Gomen, apologized Naruto as he rubbed the now throbbing bruise on his head. It's about time. We've been waiting at least 20 minutes for you to come, complained Kiba. I guess Kakashi's mannerisms are finally rubbing off on them, sighed Ino as she ran her hand through her long blonde hair. Oi, Neji, can I see the kid, my godson? Proudly asked Naruto. Neji wordlessly walked over to him and gently gave him his son as Naruto basked in his apparent victory. His name is Lee, and if you drop him I swear that you won't live through the night, threatened Neji. Naruto gulped, suddenly unnerved by the new father. He then proceeded to examine Lee, as if to see how he was put together. Sue, how do you make him work? Asked Naruto, which earned him many groans of exasperation. He's a human, you can't just turn him on or off, groaned Sakura as she massaged her forehead with the heel of her palm. I think that's the correct phrase anyways. Oh, but aren't babies supposed to be really loud? Asked Naruto confusedly. He had never actually handled a baby before and he had thought that all they did was cry all day long. When they want attention, yes. But Lee is a Hyuga, his eyes prove it, and Hyugas are by no means loud, boasted Neji. And sure enough, Lee's eyes were the signature white hinted with a very faint blue. But soon Neji's ego was deflated as Lee let out a shriek that sounded as if he was being chased by the devil himself, causing some of his companions, Naruto and Tenten in particular, to grin. Guess you were wrong, Neji, sniggered Naruto. Neji, infuriated, then snatched his son back from him, causing Lee to quiet down. Geez, Naruto, I knew you were horrible, but scaring babies, and your own godson for that. That's a new low for you, jeered Kiba as Akamaru, who stood next to his owner, barked his agreement. This caused Naruto to mutter meaningless phrases and then pout after not being able to voice his thoughts. Anyo, are Naruto-kun and Sakura-chan here yet? Yawned Hinata, who had just woken up that second, as she rubbed the sleep out of her eyes. Yes, they're here, Hinata-chan, and I think Lee is hungry, responded Neji, obviously relieved at the awakening of his wife. How can you tell? I mean, he can't talk or anything, asked Naruto confusedly. Before Neji could respond, Sakura pointed at the young child, who was trying to suck Neji's nipple through his shirt. Oh. Neji walked over to Hinata and tenderly handed her their son as she unbuttoned the top of her shirt. Lee then began vigorously eating, causing Hinata to blush deeply, embarrassed by the fact that everyone was watching her. Hey, let's go get something to eat, my treat. Cheerfully offered Tenten as her gaze wandered to Hinata and her son, as Hinata mouthed a thank you to Tenten. That could have been me, feeding Neji-kun's baby, thought Tenten scornfully. But she quickly discarded this thought as she thought of how happy the two seemed to be together. Naruto-san, could you stay here for a few minutes? Asked Tenten as everyone started to file out of the room, eager for some food. Soon the only ones in the large, uncomforting white room were Neji, Tenten, Naruto, Hinata, and Lee. I was wondering, Naruto, that since we're both Lee-kun's godparents, shouldn't we get to know each other better? Asked Tenten, slightly blushing. Yeah, of course we should. Eagerly answered Naruto as he grinned widely. So, maybe, tomorrow, would you, I don't know, like to have dinner, together? Stuttered Tenten, causing Hinata to empathetically smile and for Neji to smirk knowingly. Yeah, sure, how about Ichiraku's? Offered Naruto, not at all noticing Tenten's horrified expression. I was actually thinking of you coming to my place at about 6 or so for some Chinese cuisine, responded Tenten sheepishly. Oh, alright, answered Naruto, losing the large amounts of enthusiasm that plagued his thoughts about ramen. It was then that the two noticed the loud arguing outside about where they were going to eat. We should get going before the hospital kicks us out, suggested Tenten as she left the room and tried to help resolve the conflict, but was drowned out by Naruto as he exclaimed loudly that he wanted ramen, causing even more arguing to occur. What have we gotten ourselves into, Hinata-chan? Mused Neji as he sat next to his wife on her bed. Life, Neji-kun. We've gotten ourselves into life, answered Hinata as Lee stopped eating and yawned rather loudly. Do you think you could get one of the nurses to place Lee-kun in his crib? Asked Hinata with a subtle pleading in her tone. Neji wordlessly complied as he got up from the bed and searched for an attendant. Tenten-chan and Naruto-san, what an interesting couple. I wonder if they are destined to live together as Hinata-chan and I are, mused Neji aloud. Did you say something? Asked Hinata. Yes, but it was merely a thought, answered the Hyuga prodigy. Are you going to go with them to eat, Neji-kun? Inquired Hinata as she yawned. No, I can't say that I'm hungry, replied Neji as he walked out of the room and somehow quieted the arguing within 1 minute. It's good to have a family and friends that love me, contemplated Hinata as she gently massaged Lee's fragile scalp that was fuzzy with small tufts of black hair. It's nice to get out with friends, even if it was only for an hour or so, thought Sakura as she took a bite out of her food. With the help of Neji, the group had decided to go to a barbecue place, which was obviously happy at the arrival of the mass of hungry people, even if they were loud. But the best part of it is, he's happy. He's happy and no one here is trying to make him otherwise, thought Sakura as she looked over to Naruto, who was loudly arguing with Kiba about something or other. Sakura-san. A voice broke Sakura out of her contemplation as she found that Tenten had taken the previously vacant seat next to her. Yeah? Asked Sakura curiously. She didn't interact that much with Tenten, it wasn't that she disliked the girl, but, she just didn't feel that it was that necessary. Can you tell me all you know about Naruto-san? Pleaded Tenten. Well, it's pretty obvious that he's boisterous, obnoxious, oblivious, and just plain annoying. But he always seems happy, no matter what the situation is. It's as if he can always find that silver lining in the clouds and then magnify that by 1,000. But the best part is, he shares that silver lining with everyone, and won't stop until single people he knows feel happy, as if some unbearable weight has been taken off of them. And then, there's the other side to Naruto, the side that he hardly ever shows anyone. Even after being on the same team as him for 5 years, I have only seen that side of him once or twice. It's the side that has to bear all of the weight that he takes off of us. That's the Naruto who is beaten and abused and can't stand living, it's the side of him no one wants to see. It's heartbreaking and makes you feel helpless, because no matter how hard you try, you can't help him, listed Sakura thoughtfully. Yeah, that pretty much sums him up, confirmed Sakura as she took another bite out of her food. Thanks Sakura-san, whispered Tenten. May I ask why? Asked Sakura, but when she turned back to look the other girl in the eyes, she was gone. After her conversation with Sakura, she left the restaurant, no longer feeling hungry. Sakura's last description kept running through her head. It's the side that has to bear all of the weight that he takes off of us. That's the Naruto who is beaten and abused and can't stand living, it's the side of him no one wants to see. Why, Naruto, why don't you let us share your pain? Mentally pleaded Tenten as she strolled along the village. The clouds have changed. They're looking lighthearted and carefree, thought the young woman as she entered her house. She quickly departed for her room, and the memory from earlier that day started to finish itself. Tenten-chan. Where did you go? It shouldn't take that long just to find a ball, demanded Umi as she followed Tenten into the alley. She quickly discovered the girl embracing a young boy, who she recognized immediately. What are you doing? Insisted the girl, steely voiced. He's hurt, whispered Tenten, her knees now soaked from kneeling in the dirty water and her skirt was now soaked through. He deserves to be hurt, Tenten-chan. Now stop hugging him, and come play with me, dictated Umi. No, no one deserves to be hurt, objected Tenten softly. Tenten-chan, if you even want to have even a chance of being my friend, you will step away from that monster and come play with me, threatened the girl. I'm sorry, Tenten whispered as she got up onto her feet and looked down with pity on the young boy, who refused to meet her eyes. The two girls then walked out of the alley and forgot about their ball, and about the young boy crouched against the wall in the alley. I'm so sorry, whispered Tenten as she hugged her knees and silently wept for the boy she could not help. Hyuga Neji was always one who believed that appearance was everything, that people would think less of you if you showed your emotions. As he stood outside of Sakura's door, waiting for someone to let him in, he was waging an internal war against himself while looking calm and composed. The present matter in question was the latest Sasuke retrieval mission. He still was uncertain if she should know what exactly happened in that mission or if she should be kept in the dark. So far the latter had more logical reasons, but Neji's instinct told him that he should inform her of exactly what happened. I'm here, I might as well tell her, and if Naruto, Kakashi, or Shikamaru have a problem with that, they can bring it up with me, thought Neji as the door opened slowly, to reveal a sleepy-eyed Sakura dressed in a baggy pair of flannel pants and a cotton shirt that showed off her midriff. Neji, yawned Sakura as she rubbed her eyes sleepily. Why are you here so late? Sakura, we need to talk about mission ZH98700, in which we were supposed to retrieve one Uchiha Sasuke, firmly insisted Neji as he stepped out of the chilling night air and into the Haruno's warm but small house. Sakura frowned slightly at Neji's purpose for being there, but she didn't object when he entered. Follow me, and don't talk that loudly, my mom's asleep, whispered Sakura as she turned around and stalked into the dark house, with Neji following her. Soon she stopped at the very end of the house and opened a door that was painted bubblegum pink, revealing a room with bright pink walls with fluffy blue clouds and wooden flooring. Just shut up and sit down, snapped Sakura when she noticed Neji's cocked eyebrow, no doubt because of the color choice. When he declined and instead leaned against a wall, Sakura decided to go lay down on her bed. So what is it that's so important about the mission? Exasperatedly asked Sakura, trying to appear unconcerned about the matter, but to Neji's natural psychological knowledge, she was obviously anxious about what Neji was about to tell her. As you know, Sakura-san, Kakashi-senpai, Naruto-san, Shikamaru-san, and I were sent on an S-class mission to retrieve Uchiha. And it was our last chance too, for rumors were circulating that Orochimaru's present body was deteriorating at an accelerated pace. Originally, we planned on invading Orochimaru's lair and then for the four of us to gang up on Uchiha, knock him out, and then bring him back here. If there was any interference we were to retreat, call several ambush squads for reinforcement, and then attempt again. However, we never even got past Fire Country borders before we were ambushed by Orochimaru, Kabuto, and of course, Uchiha. Of course, we did have a backup plan in case something like that happened. We would call in for backup from the several ambush squads following at a distance of 20 kilometers behind us while Kakashi-senpai and Shikamaru-san stalled Orochimaru, Naruto would fight Uchiha, and I would fight Kabuto. Everything went according to plan, until we called for backup, that is. When we called in the mission leader on his communicator, we received no answer. Orochimaru had foreseen us bringing reinforcements and had them eliminated, so we were alone against 3 of the 3 strongest shinobi in the entire world. I was able to seal many of Kabuto's tenketsu, thus mostly preventing him from regenerating his cells, and finished him off with a Jiyuken thrust to his heart, kidneys, and liver, causing enough internal damage to almost immediately die. However, The others weren't doing quite as well as I was. Uchiha and Naruto-san were pretty much even, but Uchiha was slowly gaining the upper hand while Kakashi-senpai and Shikamaru-san, albeit both elite Junins, were badly outclassed by Orochimaru, so I decided they needed my assistance more than Naruto-san. Even with my Byakugan, Shikamaru-san's Kage Jutsu, and Kakashi-senpai's Raiden Jutsu, we were outclassed. Soon enough, Kakashi-senpai was almost completely drained of chakra. Shikamaru-san was suffering from heavy external damage, minor internal damage, and was struggling to stay conscious. I was the only one able to fight him effectively. I had managed to seal off some of Orochimaru's tenketsu, but not enough to impair him greatly. Meanwhile, both Naruto-san and Uchiha were in their demonic chakra states, but still Uchiha held the upper edge. I was able to hold off Orochimaru off for several minutes before his Kusanagi incapacitated me. I was only breathing shallowly and I was paralyzed from the neck down. Shikamaru-san finally fell unconsciousness, and Kakashi-senpai had to step back into the battle despite being almost completely drained. The last thing I saw before I fell unconscious was Naruto-san being impaled by Uchiha's sword and falling to his Chidori Nagashi, which left Kakashi-senpai outnumbered and outclassed. When I woke up, the first person I saw was Shizune-san. She was kneeling over me applying healing chakra and welcoming me back to the living world. Behind her were several squads of Anbu who were supporting an unconscious Kakashi-senpai and a conscious Shikamaru-san, his internal wounds healed. I then noticed that Naruto-san wasn't with the Anbu and I quickly asked Shizune-san where he was, and her eyes seemed to be the essence of pity, and she pointed over to two bodies sprawled over each other. One was dying, and the other was on the borderline only around a meter away from where I was laying. As you probably have guessed, Sakura-san, Uchiha was the dying one. But Naruto-san was crying. Sakura-san, he was crying. I would rather be forced to swallow nails than to ever see that again. He looked so pitiful and so defenseless, so uncharacteristic of him. And Uchiha, he looked so peaceful, as if he had been waiting for this moment to come and had been expecting it, even expecting his best friend crouched over him crying his eyes out. He then told Naruto-san that his dying wish was for Naruto-san to avenge his clan and to kill Itachi-san. And Sakura-san, the part that you need to know is, Naruto-san told Uchiha he would. In fact, his exact words were, "I promise you, and you of all people know how much he values his promises," narrated Neji. Sakura was quite surprised by Neji's sense of caring for Naruto's well-being, seeing as they hadn't exactly had the best of relationships when they were younger. "Neji, what do you want from me? I know certainly well that you didn't come here in the middle of the night just to comfort me," skeptically asked Sakura. Neji just smirked in response. So she has changed for the better over these past few years. I would have expected the old Sakura to be completely fooled by that cover-up. As you've probably noticed, I didn't mention how Orochimaru died. And I did so for one simple reason: only two people know how he died, Hokage-sama and Naruto-san. They have refused to disclose any information regarding the subject, explained Neji. And you want me to somehow acquire this information for you? Asked Sakura as she sat up on her bed, boring holes into Neji's head. Yes, concisely answered Neji. Then tell me, Neji-san. Tell me why you of all people need to know, demanded Sakura as she got up from her bed and strode up to Neji, looking straight up into his eyes. I am not obligated to inform you of my reasons, Sakura-san, coldly denied Neji as he opened the door to Sakura's room. Will you take the job or not? Sakura just exasperatedly sighed as she sank back down onto her bed. Fine, but instead of payment, I want to know why you want the information and what you plan to do with it, insisted Sakura. But she received no reply, for when she looked to the door, Neji was gone, and what seemed like 1,000 miles away, she heard a door being closed. As Neji exited the cozy Haruno abode, he found himself being bombarded by freezing pellets of rain, seemingly intent on destroying the indelible sins he had committed as a shinobi. He slowly strode away from the house into a nearby bar that he frequented regularly. The owner there allowed him to enter, albeit the fact that he wasn't allowed to drink. He usually went there to blow off some steam, but never to drink. No, to drink alcohol would stir up painful memories of his childhood, memories he would rather keep hidden. If only I could tell you my reasons, Sakura-san. If only I could. It was odd for him to take walks out in the rain, especially in the rain, because the shimmering rain colliding with the dark roads brought back painful memories of his abusive past. But of course, the purpose of this uncommon venture was to avoid the memories that had begun to bombard him while he lay in his futon and glared up at the whitewashed walls, as if to find the answers to the questions that had been plaguing his mind for the entirety of his life. Kit, there's something you need to know about that girl before you go on that date with her tomorrow, warned the Kyuubi no Kitsune. However, its warning was ignored as the blonde-haired young man walked throughout the drenched village. Kit, listen to me, bellowed the fox demon. Once again, its call was left unanswered. Fine then, I'll tell you the hard way, snapped the demon. Suddenly, the memory that had been picking at his mind for the last several days came back at full force, causing a large migraine to start in his head, and he dropped down onto his knees and clutched at his head in anguish. I'm sorry, Kit, but you refused to cooperate with me, it sincerely apologized as it released a strong burst of green chakra, causing the man to cry out in torment as it seemed as if his head exploded. What the hell are you doing to me? Why am I in such fucking pain? Demanded the man as his breathing began to grow more ragged and shallow. The only response he received, however, was a sad smile from the yokai sealed within his stomach. The memory then proceeded to play. The verbal abuse, the beating, the resistance, the begging, and then him being thrown against the hard wall. This was usually where the memory ended, but this time it kept on playing, as if it had received new footage. This time, he woke up, feeling bruised, battered, and aching, but he was alive, somehow. He had no inclination to move yet from that spot, something told him to stay put and wait to see what happened. A voice whispered one word in his head, destiny. It said that it was destiny that he waits and see what would happen. And as he always did, he listened to this strange voice and waited, until almost an hour passed before something rolled into the alleyway, a ball. It was red and had white stripes, and it rolled all the way into the young boy's grasp. He examined every aspect of it, for he had only heard of balls through stories and has only seen one once before this a few years ago. Then a girl came up to him, and she seemed to actually care. The boy was stunned. No one had ever cared about him before, and so he responded in the only way he could think of. By pushing her away. By telling her that she shouldn't care about him and that he should be the only one to suffer. But this just seemed to make her sadder, and then, she hugged him. He allowed her to, only because he had never touched anyone in that way before, and he didn't know how to react. Then the other girl came, and she called for her to leave him and to go play. But she used the kind girl's name. She had called her Tenten-chan. Naruto then awoke from his painful recollection and thought only one thought. I'm sorry, Tenten-san. I'm sorry I couldn't dry your tears so many years ago. When he finally brought his eyes up from the ground, he was face to face with Onyx eyes that resembled that of one Uchiha Sasuke. In fact, when Naruto studied the boy closely, he looked almost exactly like Sasuke, except something was missing. It was something that he couldn't, or wouldn't place. Mister, you shouldn't be hurting. I'm the only person who should be hurting, whispered the Sasuke doppelganger as he brought his arms around Naruto's neck, and rested his head on his shoulder. Why are you out so late? Why aren't you at home where it's warm? Asked Naruto softly, but he already knew the answer to the question. I don't have a house, mister, confessed the boy as the rain pounded down on the two kneeling figures. What is your name? Asked Naruto as he brought his arms around the young boy's waist. My name is Sasuke, answered the boy as he buried into Naruto's shoulder. He didn't know why, but he felt at peace with this man, that he was someone that Sasuke could trust. Slowly, Naruto brought his head up and unclasped the young boy's shivering hands from his neck and brought Sasuke's face up to meet his as Naruto smiled empathetically. Then, Sasuke-kun, allow me to offer my house to you, offered the young man as he felt water drip onto his already drenched clothes from his matted down hair. But, why, Mister, asked the young boy as he searched Naruto's eyes for any kind of trickery or deception, but instead found only kindness and empathy in the man's blue eyes that seemed to glow dully in the rain. Because, Sasuke-kun, I want you to grow up in a home where you are loved and are welcome. And my name is Uzumaki Naruto, answered Naruto as he broadened his smile. Kit, do you realize what you're doing? Asked the Kyuubi skeptically, knowing that his container had no clue how big of a responsibility it was to raise a child. Yes, I do. I'm giving this boy the home that I always wished I could have. And it is destiny that I do so, I feel it in my soul, answered Naruto. I accept your offer, Naruto Otou-san, graciously accepted Sasuke. Naruto then picked him up in a fireman's carry gently, as if with practice, and carried back off to his apartment, where it may not be the best home, but a home it was indeed. Tenten-san, I only wish that you could know how much that one display of affection has changed me, thought Naruto as he opened the door to his apartment and then gently placed Sasuke down. Otou-san, I could get used to this, I hope, thought Naruto as he went to fetch a blanket for his son to wrap himself in. Sasuke had never remembered living under a sturdy roof, let alone a rather large apartment. His eyes widened as he tried to take in all of the luxuries that his new father's apartment held. A kitchen that, although it was slightly dirty, was well equipped, a medium-sized wooden table that was in very good condition, several pieces of well-upholstered furniture, and that was without looking in the several doors planted at sporadic intervals in the apartment. But what amazed him the most was the color scheme of the home, a whitewashed ceiling, powder blue painted walls, and a cerulean blue carpeting on the floor except for in the kitchen, where there was wooden flooring. Sasuke was always good at judging a person's character by the way they dressed and which colors they dressed in, and Naruto baffled him completely. Originally he guessed that Naruto was an energetic and creative person who craved attention but transitioning into a state of mourning due to the loss of a loved one. However, during this period he tended to feel much anger or aggravation, but shrouded it within a cloak of deception. And all of this he predicted just by the clothing that Naruto wore, a tight black shirt that covered the nape of his neck down to his waist with dark red stripes running down the sleeves and outlined with a deep purple stitching, dark orange pants that had a black spiral running up the left leg that started where his shirt ended and ended right below his ankles, and he also wore standard brown shinobi sandals. However, his house signified that he enjoyed tranquility and the purity of truth and signified authority, loyalty, and perseverance as his strengths of character. What the hell am I missing? I knew he was complex immediately after I saw him, but this is just ridiculous, mentally asked Sasuke. He had always prided himself on his ability to decipher a person's personality correctly a majority of the time, and was disappointed that the one person he couldn't decipher was the person who had took him into his house. Yet, he always lusted after challenges, whether it was challenging older and stronger children to fights or stealing food from a vendor, and felt that this would be the biggest challenge he had to face yet. He was soon brought out of his reverie by the falling footfalls of Naruto returning with a well-used towel and a set of clothing, which he handed to the young boy. Go into the room at the end of the hall, dry yourself off, and change your clothes, you'll get sick if you stay in those, commanded Naruto as he walked over to the kitchen and started to cook something. Sasuke complied with the orders wordlessly as he dragged himself to the room that Naruto indicated. As he entered the dark room, he tried to feel around on the wall for a light switch. He eventually found one, and when he switched it on, he inhaled out of shock. The entire room was vandalized, the bed was ripped to shreds, graffiti completely covered the whitewashed walls and ceiling, clothes were strewn about the floor, a dresser was overturned, the wooden flooring was destroyed in some places, and there was something on the floor. As he picked it up, he found himself looking at a photograph of 4 ninja. A tall man with gray hair wearing his hitai so that it covered his left eye was standing behind 3 children and was smiling and had his hands placed on the heads of the 2 of them. The one on the right looked like a much younger version of Naruto, with much shorter hair and was wearing a hideous orange jumpsuit, glaring at the person on the left. In the middle was a girl with long pink hair wearing a red dress smiling and bringing her arms close to her body. Sasuke thought that she looked like the woman who helped her out several days ago after he challenged several of the senior academy students, who had gotten out of hand and had almost beat him to death. Then there was the person on the left, the boy with the spiky black hair wearing a blue shirt and beige-colored pants brooding. He looks like me, thought Sasuke in awe at how similar they were in appearance. A strange, ferocious wind then picked up from seemingly nowhere, causing Sasuke to close his eyes and grasp the overturned drawer to anchor himself down. When the wind finally died down and Sasuke hesitantly opened his eyes to see what havoc the wind caused. But instead of seeing a horribly wrecked room, he found himself standing in a room that was immaculate with every piece of furniture placed perfectly against the walls. And on the bed that was placed against the far wall and was positioned perpendicular to the sidewalls sat a man with crimson eyes and short spiked red hair wearing an ensemble entirely composed of red silk. And coming out from behind the pants were 9 tails that shared the same color as his eyes. "So you finally decided to return," bluntly stated the man, boring his crimson eyes into Sasuke's. Who are you? And what do you mean I've returned? I've always been here," retorted Sasuke defensively. "Right. You should be honored to meet me, Sasuke-kun. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, overlord of the 9 layers of Makai," coldly introduced the Kyuubi as he elegantly stood up and walked over to Sasuke, who was shivering in fear. He had heard stories of the Kyuubi, the demon fox that, 17 years ago, almost completely obliterated Konohagakure single-handedly. "So I take it you remember me." Sasuke hurriedly backed away from the approaching Yukai until he was almost out of the door and back into Naruto's hallway. He tried to then run away from the Kitsune, but found that his legs refused to carry him as he collapsed onto the ground. "Stay away from me! Stay away!" screamed Sasuke as he tried to crawl away from his pursuer, but was soon captured in an iron hold by his pursuer, whose eyes seemed to gleam with psychotic glee. "Don't believe everything you hear, Sasuke-kun. If you do, it'll come back to kill you in the future. And remember what I've shown you tonight, it will be useful to you in the future," advised the Kyuubi. And with that, another ferocious wind started up, and Sasuke once again closed his eyes. When he opened them, the Yukai was gone, leaving Sasuke alone on the floor of the room, exhaustion overwhelming his senses and spiraling him into a deep slumber. "I know that it's a bit too late for ramen, but he looks like he hasn't eaten in days, maybe even a week or so," thought Naruto as he started to boil water for several cups of instant ramen. "And anyway, as hard as it may be to believe it, I don't think he's ever had ramen before." He then heard Sasuke scream at someone to get away. He immediately left the boiling water on the stove and ran into the room only to be thrown back into the front door to his apartment by an immense gale emanating from the room. He used the door, which now had a large indent in it where his body collided with it, as support as he got to his feet and once again tried to enter his room, this time finding that he could enter. When he entered, everything looked perfectly fine, everything except for Sasuke. He was curled up into a ball on the floor sleeping, clutching something in his hands. When Naruto bent down to see what it was, he was upset at the sight of his very first picture of Team 7 ripped and wrinkled in the child's hands. That sight hurt him more than any intentional destruction of his property. That picture symbolized when he still held onto some shred of innocence and naivety and reveled in the spirit of youth. Naruto then lifted up the boy and placed him on the bed gently, as not to wake him. He then peeled off Sasuke's wet clothes, leaving his undergarments on, and replaced them with the old pair of pajamas that Naruto had given him earlier. Finally, he pulled the down blanket over Sasuke's body before leaving the room. "It's such a shame that all of that ramen should go to waste," ruefully thought Naruto as he went into the kitchen to dispose of the ramen which he had just cooked. However, As he was about to dispose of the food, he began to rethink his actions. I mean, a little midnight snack wouldn't hurt, he thought. So Naruto then emptied a portion of ramen into a bowl and quickly devoured it. He then unconsciously poured a second helping for himself and almost inhaled it. And the cycle repeated until all 10 servings that he had prepared for Sasuke and him were all devoured, leaving Naruto with a slightly upset stomach. Shit, I should have known that I would have gone overboard like that, groaned Naruto as he sat himself down onto a futon. Almost immediately, however, Naruto saw a slight distortion in the shadows caused by the tree outside of his apartment. Alright, what do you want? You can't hide for shit, did you know that? Asked Naruto as he prepared a kunai to throw at the intruder, only to be forced to hold it only an inch away from his own throat. So you think I'm horrible at hiding, Naruto-san? Whispered a voice from the shadows of his apartment. At least I'm smart enough not to allow an intruder into my apartment. It seems that you're still as much of a baka as you were when we were still genin. What do you want? I was just trying to sleep off a sore stomach, asked Naruto. Hokage-sama requests your presence immediately, replied his attacker, still in the shadows. Naruto then felt the compulsion to hold a kunai to his throat disappear, and then, to the attacker's chagrin, disappeared himself. The attacker then scanned the apartment, looking for Naruto really was, only to find a kunai set itself comfortably against his neck. Yes, you really are horrible at hiding, Shikamaru-san. And you shouldn't even have thought for a second that I would not detect an intruder in my own home. After all, I'm not a jonin for nothing. Cheerfully stated Naruto as he stared down from the ceiling at Shikamaru's pineapple-styled hair. Shikamaru just sighed in embarrassment at being outsmarted by Naruto, who was still considered thick-headed and dense. Naruto then brought his kunai away from Shikamaru's neck and jumped onto the floor in front of him, grinning widely, just how he used to when they were younger. I'll say it again, go to Hokage-sama's office now. She usually doesn't work this late at night, and she's irritable. If you don't show up as soon as you can, it'll mean a living hell for all of us tomorrow, reiterated Shikamaru as he performed the teleportation jutsu, causing him to almost sink into the shadows themselves. I wonder what Oba-chan wants this late at night. I'm surprised she isn't sleeping off a hangover, muttered Naruto as he quietly walked into his room to retrieve his spare ninja uniform. I still can't believe how unoriginal some ninja are. I mean, blue and green everywhere is so boring, it's nice to have some originality and brightness, thought Naruto as he brought his clothing into the dimly lighted kitchen, the candles set around the room vicariously devouring their wicks. I myself prefer lighter shades like orange and red, but, at least it's only strongly recommended that we wear standard ninja uniforms, or I'd be screwed. He then began to unpeel his drenched clothing and folded them into small squares. He then placed them into a laundry basket he kept near the front door, which was slowly filling up with used clothes. After, he slipped on his spare outfit and bolted out of the apartment complex and towards the Hokage Tower, where undoubtedly an irritable Tsunade would be awaiting his arrival. After being led into the Hokage's office by her sleepy secretary, Naruto was faced with an enigma. Tsunade was doing paperwork, and she was smiling. He had never in the 3 years that the Godime had protected Konoha seen her smiling while she was doing paperwork. Are you okay, Oba-chan? Asked Naruto as he quietly closed the door behind him and stalked towards Tsunade's desk, bracing himself for her to explode at any second. Oh, Naruto, good, you're here, greeted Tsunade as she glanced up at Naruto and smiled at him, which was almost concealed by the thin veil of darkness that enveloped the room. Oh shit, I'm not gonna like this at all, thought Naruto fearfully as he waited anxiously for Tsunade to answer. I'll get straight down to the point. I'm assigning you an A- class mission that you are not allowed to refuse, announced Tsunade rather grimly. At this Naruto slightly frowned. On any other day he would have been ecstatic, but he did not forget his plans with Tenten or the fact that he now lent his house to an orphan, one that was sleeping in his bed at this very moment. Oba-chan, what are the mission specifications? asked Naruto resignedly after several seconds. Tsunade did not neglect to notice his downcast facial expression and couldn't help but to wonder why he was so uncharacteristically silent. The mission will begin at exactly 9 o'clock this morning. You are to meet your client at Training Ground 14 and her escort will explain in depth your mission goal at that time. I have no idea how long it'll last, so you'll just have to deal with that. You will be executing this on your own for the next 2 weeks, and then Hyuga Hinata will assist you for the remainder of the mission. That is all that I can disclose to you at this time, informed Tsunade as she drowned herself in a cup of sake and proceeded to pour herself another glass. If that's all that you wanted to say, can I go back to bed now? Asked Naruto apathetically. Listen to me, brat, yelled Tsunade as she grabbed Naruto by his collar and brought him over her desk. Do you know how much trouble I had to go through just so that you could get this mission? Now you better be damn appreciative about it. Tsunade then shoved Naruto back into the wall, causing him to fall down. Now leave so I can have some quiet, grumbled Tsunade as she returned to her paperwork. Naruto then left her office quickly as to not anger her even further and feel the full extent of her wrath. Stupid brat. You have no idea how much this will impact your future, mumbled Tsunade. She then finished working on a small packet of papers and put them into one of the many drawers in her desk, the only one that had 4 separate locks on it. She then gulped down one last sip of sake before dismissing Shizune, locking up the tower, and heading back to her house. You're one step closer, Naruto, one step closer, thought Tsunade as she walked through the dark, damp streets of Konoha and felt the cold wind caress her body, as if to ensure her that she did the right thing. But for some strange reason, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had done her adoptive brother wrong. And as she passed one of the few bars that were open, she could have sworn she could have seen Hyuga Neji exit it and disappear, but she dismissed it to the slight hangover that was brewing in her head. I probably won't get to update in a while, please bear with me for that time. Tenten was relieved, to say the least. Tsunade had given her a day's leave, saying that Tenten more than deserved it for the amount of work she had been doing over the past few months. So now, at 8 o'clock in the morning, instead of training or going on a mission, Tenten was running her family's weapon shop, something that she had not been able to do for a long time. As Tenten looked over her list of things to prepare before the store actually opened, she heard someone knocking rather loudly on the door. She sighed and reluctantly opened the door to inform the person that the store was not open just yet. However, the last person she expected to be there was Naruto, along with a young boy. Oh hey, oh Naruto, you do realize that we don't open for another half hour, right? Asked Tenten as she inspected Naruto. Tenten had to stifle laughter at the sight of Naruto's outrageously bright outfit, but her eyes narrowed as she immediately noticed the familiar appearance of the boy. Yeah, I know, but I didn't come here to buy something. I know that this probably sounds really selfish, but could you do me a favor? Asked Naruto. What kind of favor is it? Asked Tenten as she leaned against the doorframe of her shop. I know it's your day off, but could you look after Sasuke for me? I have a mission and I don't want him staying by himself, requested Naruto as he rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. However, Tenten caught all of the hidden messages in his requests, the silent plea, the distress, the urgency, and the empathy for the young boy. Sure. I could use some assistance in the shop anyway, answered Tenten cheerfully. However, her gaze showed an understanding, a very hazy one, but an understanding of Naruto's urgency. His eyes showed a deep, untainted gratitude, which pained Tenten to see. Just don't forget about tonight, Naruto. Don't worry, I won't, said Naruto as he ran off to Training Ground 14. For once in his life, Naruto decided that he would be early, and not just on time. When he arrived, however, he already found 3 people there, 3 genin by the looks of it. Hey, Blondie, are you our new sensei? Obnoxiously asked one of the 3. He had long, braided, light brown hair and was throwing kunai at a straw dummy with almost perfect accuracy. Naruto decided to ignore the boy and sat down against a tree and take inventory. However, the boy refused to be ignored. Hey, I asked you a question, Blondie, yelled the boy as he threw one of his kunai at Naruto with all of his strength. It seemed to cut the air in two as it flew towards Naruto's head. It came closer, and closer, until it was barely 6 inches from hitting its mark. Naruto had other plans for the kunai, though, and caught it by the dulled part of its blade and then threw it with 5 times the force back at the boy. None of the genin saw its entire passage as it seemed to teleport from Naruto's hand and then into the dead center of the neck of the training dummy behind the boy who had been insulting him, slightly grazing his cheek and drawing some blood. It's stupid to throw weapons at people who are obviously stronger than you, reprimanded Naruto, not once taking his eyes off of his supplies. Grr, answer me, damn it, yelled the boy. He then drew several shuriken and was about to throw them when someone grabbed his wrist, hard. Don't be a fool, Kazuki. He has you outclassed in every aspect, commanded one of the other genin. Kazuki grumbled something about stupid blondes, and reluctantly returned to his target practice. You are Uzumaki Naruto-san, am I correct? Asked the genin who intervened earlier. Yeah, aren't you the observant one? Sarcastically answered Naruto as he finished taking inventory. I wish to know if the rumors about you are true, she responded, slowly advancing on Naruto. And which rumors would those be? Naruto asked, seemingly oblivious to the girl's advancement. Your skill, she answered cryptically before attempting to strike Naruto, only to strike a log. She smiled, however, as she furiously went through several hand signs that Naruto recognized all too well, her black hair covering her eyes. Byakugan, thought Naruto as he jumped it down from the tree that he was hiding in and waited for the girl to attack. She quickly spun around, and proved Naruto right, her pearl-colored eyes trained on Naruto's chakra coils, and she mentally gasped at the peculiar nature of the coils. She then charged Naruto and attempted to strike the tenketsu on his arms with the customary Juken style, only find that almost all of her attacks were being blocked. Soon, though, after a failed Juken strike to Naruto's abdomen, she halted her assault. The rumors about you are true then, stated the girl as she deactivated her Byakugan with a smirk. You are a pathetic dropout. Oh really? How am I weak if you could hardly land a hit on me? Asked Naruto, deeply agitated about being insulted by a 12-year-old. Look again, smugly stated the girl. She then pulled back Naruto's sleeves to reveal that she actually had disabled several of the tenketsu in his arms. Naruto then brought them down mumbling about, snot-nosed Hyuga brats. Yo, said a voice behind Naruto, startling him as he drew a kunai to combat whoever had come. Oh, Kakashi-sensei, it's just you. Are you this team's new sensei? Naruto asked, jerking his finger towards the 3 genin. Oh, Hokage-sama didn't tell you, Naruto? Asked Kakashi as his eyes scanned the pages of his new Ika Ika book. Tell me what? Warily asked Naruto. You are their new sensei, answered Kakashi disinterestedly. Nani? Asked Naruto, Hanabi, and Kazuki at the same time. But, Ba-chan said that I would be waiting here for a special A-class mission, whined Naruto. Yes, this is the special A-class mission. Unfortunately their previous sensei was killed on his last mission, and Hokage-sama specifically wanted you to take on this team. She also wanted you to come see her after you're done, explained Kakashi, his nose still buried in his book. Ba-chan, how could you do this to me? Thought Naruto dejectedly as he looked over his team. Oh yeah, I thought you might want these, offhandedly said Kakashi as he dug into his pouch and tossed 2 bells and a timer to Naruto, who started grinning maniacally, scaring the 3 genin. Oh yeah, Kakashi-sensei, why are you here so early? You're usually late, asked Naruto. Oh, I did come late. I was supposed to be here an hour ago, answered Kakashi, smiling. Naruto just shook his head at his response. Well, thanks for the bells and timer, Kakashi-sensei, thanked Naruto as Kakashi disappeared into a puff of smoke. Alright, all of you come here, yelled Naruto. The 3 genin then reluctantly assembled in front of Naruto. Let's start with introductions. Annoying boy, You start, then Hyuga brat, and then dogboy, commanded Naruto. My name is Satake Kazuki, the boy stated, pouting. And don't forget it Blondie, he added snidely. Hyuga Hanabi, blatantly said Hanabi. I'm Inuzuka Hige, and this is Midorimaru, mumbled Hige as he scratched his dark-furred dog's head. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, enthusiastically introduced Naruto. Before we do anything else, you guys are going to participate in a little test, said Naruto. Ah, come on. We had to take enough tests in the academy, I want to go on a damn mission. Yelled Kazuki. Good. They're still fresh out of the academy. I can still have some fun with them, thought Naruto. This just isn't any test. This test will determine whether you are truly capable of becoming a genin. I believed that we became genin when we passed the academy's test, Naruto-sensei, sheepishly said Hige. Nope. That test was just to weed out the weaklings, answered Naruto. He then showed them the 2 bells and timer that had been given to him by Kakashi. The object of the test is to acquire a bell. If you don't acquire the bell, you'll fail and will have to go back to the academy. You have until 11 to complete the test. Now go, yelled Naruto as he set off a timer. Immediately all 3 of the genin ran off into the surrounding forests. Now let's see what you're capable of, mumbled Naruto as a plethora of kunai and shuriken bombarded him from the trees. Naruto smirked and began signing for one of his first original jutsu, Daikage Bunshin no Jutsu. Line break. So, Sasuke-kun, how old are you? Asked Tenten as she was polishing one of the katana that were on display. I'm turning 10 in a week, answered Sasuke as he was sweeping the floors and admiring the large quantities of weapons that the store sold. Oh, that's great. Are you going to enroll in the Ninja Academy? No, I'm not. I want to though, said Sasuke, yearning clear in his voice. Why don't you ask Naruto to enroll you? I'm sure he would, suggested Tenten as she finished polishing the katana and moved on to a Fuma Shuriken. But, how did, sputtered Sasuke. He was sure that he didn't say anything that would give away his secret. Call it intuition, said Tenten, stopping her polishing to attend to a customer. Hey Sakura-chan, what do you need? I need 3 dozen senbon, thanks Tenten-chan, answered Sakura. Her eyes widened as she saw the young boy she had helped a few days ago. Hey, are you feeling any better? She asked him. Oh, it's you. Yes. Thank you for helping me earlier. But why were you in Naruto 2-san's picture? Blurted out Sasuke, immediately covering his mouth afterwards. Naruto 2-san? Asked Sakura quizzically. Yes, Sasuke-kun is from a foreign village and there it is customary to call someone who is supposed to look after you for a long period of time 2-san, calmly improvised Tenten. Sakura's face fell, though, when she heard the name Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, right? Asked Sakura. Sasuke nodded in the affirmative. Naruto, another man named Sasuke, and I were on a 3-person genin team when we were all 12. We worked together for over a year on various missions and exams, explained Sakura wistfully. How come you guys aren't working together now? Sasuke died, stated Sakura flatly. Sasuke was going to ask more into the subject, but was stopped by a steely gaze from Tenten, who counted out Sakura's senbon and exchanged them for Sakura's ryo. See you later Tenten-chan. Hollered Sakura as she left the store. Sasuke-kun, it's rude to pry into other people's personal affairs, scolded Tenten lightly as she returned to polishing the large shuriken. Tenten-san, said Sasuke after a few minutes of silence. Yeah, what is it? Can you teach me how to throw a shuriken? Asked Sasuke, hope evident in his voice. Yeah, sure. I'll just go lock the door and I'll take you out back, answered Tenten. But as she went to lock the door, someone entered the store. Tenten-chan, we need to talk, insisted the man as he held the door open with his open palm. About what Neji-kun? Naruto-san. Line break. Naruto deftly dodged every single kunai and shuriken and finished signing his jutsu. Soon 3 other Naruto clones appeared in front of him, each one slouching. However, these clones weren't normal clones. These clones could communicate telepathically with Naruto, possess more endurance, can act independently, and act more like human beings. The only major downfall to the technique was the substantial amount of chakra needed to create them. Each one of you assess their one-on-one fighting capabilities. Spar for 20 minutes, and then allow yourselves to be dispelled, commanded Naruto telepathically to each of his clones, who were each scowling. How come we have to do all of your dirty work? Complained one of the clones. Another downfall to this technique was the noticeable development of a human-like demeanor. Because I created you, now go. Dictated Naruto more forcefully, successfully causing each of the Bunshin to immediately run off into a different direction, with Naruto also disappearing. Naruto sat in a tree, awaiting the information that his clones should be sending in the next couple of minutes. However, he didn't expect one to arrive so quickly. He had supposed that the first one to come would be Hanabi's information, but this was on Hige. Naruto-sensei, just because my Oni-san doesn't use his brains often doesn't mean that I don't either, coldly stated a voice below him. Naruto looked below just in time to see Hige and his dog executing a Gatsuga on the branch that he was seated on. He deftly back-flipped onto the ground to meet the young Inuzuka and his dog as they landed. Are you surprised that I am the first one to beat your clone sensei? While your improved version of the Cage Bunshin is ingenious, there was one major flaw in your design, which allowed me to immediately recognize it as a clone and dispose of it as such, explained Hige as he ran a hand through his tangled black hair. Aren't you going to tell me what my flaw was? Asked Naruto. No. I may be young, but I'm sure as hell not stupid enough as to point out my enemy's mistakes, said Hige coldly as he and Midorimaru attacked Naruto again with a Gatsuga. Naruto quickly preformed a Kawarimi, avoiding the attack only to find that Hanabi had defeated her clone opponent and was closing in on their location. These guys are a lot stronger than we were at their age, thought Naruto as Midorimaru and Hige were assaulting him on two opposite sides. Naruto quickly formed the hand seals for the Kawarimi as Hanabi finally found the two brawlers and attempted a Juken strike to his throat. Where'd he go? Wondered Hige when suddenly he felt himself being pulled into the ground as Naruto was where he was standing before. Doden. Shinju Zansho no Jutsu, Earth Release. Inner decapitation technique, said Naruto as he moved onto Hanabi, only to find that Kazuki finally defeated his clone and was advancing quickly. Naruto went through a complex combination of seals that appeared to be those of a dangerous jutsu while smiling widely, causing Hanabi to slightly falter in her movements. But that slight falter was all the time that Naruto needed to gain an offensive edge. He quickly drew two kunai and threw them on opposite sides of Hanabi, which then became firmly embedded in a tree. But these kunai were attached by a strong, steel wire that yanked Hanabi along with the kunai to the tree and securing her to the tree, for now. Naruto then directed to his attention towards Midorimaru, who reverted himself back into his true form. The dog attempted to grab the bells, which were attached to Naruto's belt. Naruto, however, saw him and grabbed the dog in midair, pinned him to the ground, and then proceeded to use chakra wire to keep him on the ground. It was then that a barrage of Fuma Shuriken and handle-less kunai honed themselves in on Naruto, who drew double-bladed kunai and deflected every weapon away from Midorimaru, Hige, and himself, who were all in the line of fire. He shows no regard whatsoever towards his teammates' well-being, thought Naruto. He needs to be shown a lesson. Naruto then searched the entire area with his chakra and pinpointed the weapon user's exact location. He was crouching on a high branch in a tree 30 meters away. He then pulled out a summoning scroll and summoned a large weapon similar to a sickle but with a crescent blade on each end. He then swung it and threw one end while holding the other. The chain seemed to be infinitely long, as Naruto still stood on solid ground as his crescent-shaped sickle embedded itself in the bark right below Kazuki's head, almost severing his jugular vein, and his head for that matter. The chain then retracted, dragging Naruto at breakneck speeds in the air towards Kazuki while he was performing hasty hand signs for a genjutsu. By the time Naruto actually reached Kazuki, he was quaking in fear due to Naruto's Magen, Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique, and the shock of almost being decapitated was still fresh in his mind. Those who treat their teammates like trash or less than garbage, spat Naruto as he disappeared in a puff of smoke after pulling his sickle from the tree, allowing the three 12-year-olds some time to escape from their confines, regroup, and then reorganize their attack. Time's ticking, mumbled Naruto as he leaned against a sturdy oak tree and appeared to fall asleep against it as the clouds slowly eclipsed the sun's rays, casting shadows on the young man's face. What about Naruto Neji-kun? Asked Tenten, confused as to Neji's sudden interest in Naruto. Your interests in him, answered Neji as he walked further into the weapon shop. Sasuke, can you go wait at the training grounds for me? Requested Tenten as she fought to keep her emotions in check. Sure Tenten-san, energetically answered Sasuke as he bounded out the door and into the small training yard behind the shop. What about my interests in Naruto? Demanded Tenten as she turned her back to him so he couldn't see the anger that was showing itself on her face. Stop playing dumb, you know what I'm here about, firmly insisted Neji as he placed a hand on Tenten's shoulder, which was swatted away. Why do you care about how I feel about him? Yelled Tenten as turned around to face her teammate and friend, her face bright with anger. It's because I don't want either of you getting hurt, whispered Neji as he brought up his hand to Tenten's cheek. I want to make sure that you're not doing the right things for the wrong reasons. What do you mean? Asked Tenten, her attention fully captured by Neji's lips. I know that both of you have been hurt by the ones you've loved in the past, and I don't want you two to be together just because you feel sorry for each other, or to use the other as a spring to get out of mourning and then being tossed aside, explained Neji. Tenten's eyes became ice cold as soon as her mind registered his words. Get out, hissed Tenten as she pushed the Hyuga prodigy away from her, tears threatening to fall from her eyes. Get out of here now before I make you. Neji obliged, but when he reached the door he turned back towards her. I'm only trying to make sure you don't get hurt, claimed Neji before he left Tenten alone in the shop. She then sat down on the floor and hugged her knees to her chest as she tried to compose herself. Would I really do that though? Use Naruto and then cast him aside like a toy that is of no use and deserves it? Is that the only reason why I'm attracted to him? Or, would he do that to me to help get over Sasuke's death? No, he's not like that, but am I? Gah. Damn it, why the hell does he come the day that we're supposed to get together for dinner? Tenten reflected as she rested her head on her knees. Will I ever have my happy ending, or will I just continue to live in a world of disappointments and masks? Tenten-san, are you alright? Asked Sasuke as he re-entered the store, concerned at the sight of the kunoichi huddled on the floor. Yes, I'm fine, answered Tenten as she looked up, giving Sasuke a smile. I was just thinking about something. Now let's go train, she explained as she got onto her feet and followed Sasuke out into the back door. What's the status on Naruto-sensei? Asked Hige as the three genin sat in a tree, planning their next attack. He seems to be sleeping. Confusedly answered Hanabi as she double-checked with her Byakugan. Yeah, he's sleeping. Baka, hissed Kazuki, still angry about being pinned to a tree and then falling prey to a simple genjutsu. That may be true, but he's a baka who can hand all of our asses to us with one hand tied behind his back, retorted Hige as Midorimaru yipped his agreement. Alright, so then what do we do, dogboy? Sneered Kazuki. We work as a team, answered Hanabi drawing several kunai. He couldn't possibly be able to beat all there of us at the same time. I hope not at least. I agree Hanabi, with the three of us working together, he should be overwhelmed, concurred Hige. Just one problem, princess. We're all either weapon or taijutsu specialists. We don't have any ninjutsu or genjutsu specialists, which mean that we all have to be near him, argued Kazuki. That doesn't mean we don't have any ninjutsu at our disposal though, we have the Bunshin, Kawarimi, and Henge, retorted Hige. Yeah, a lot of help those'll be, said Kazuki as he rolled his eyes. I have several Kaden jutsu, that should be enough, added Hanabi. Fine, But do any of you actually have a plan? Asked Kazuki. Yeah, it's a little hazy, but I do, answered Hige. First off, we'll decide if Naruto-sensei is actually there, or if it's just one of his clones. Kazuki, you'll throw a barrage of shuriken and kunai with exploding notes attached at the tree behind him while Hanabi watches his chakra coils and observes the fluctuation of them. There's a noticeable influx of chakra when a human awakens from slumber, am I correct? Hanabi nodded her head. No matter what the person slumping against that tree should awaken. If on the off chance that it is Naruto-sensei, then we'll attack at the same time from 3 different directions, act as if you're actually trying to hit vital points but place exploding tags on strategic parts of his body, putting him in a stalemate. If he doesn't surrender the bells, he would be blown to bits. If in fact that fails, we'll wing it from there. However, if it's a clone, which is the more likely situation, Hanabi, you'll scan the area for him with your Byakugan and then we'll attempt to sneak up on him, explained Hige as both Kazuki and Hanabi nodded their heads in understanding. Go Kazuki. Kazuki smirked and drew a multitude of kunai and shuriken and wrapped exploding tags on all of them, and then threw them at the tree close to where Naruto slept. They were so close, in fact, that they were barely an inch from his body. However, he didn't wake up. Did he just? Asked Hige, his mouth gaping. Yes, he just slept through a barrage of kunai and shuriken that were meant for the purpose of waking him up, answered Hanabi, hiding her disgust for just how lax the ninja society was, if they were to let someone as lazy as that join them. Baka-sensei, you are so totally screwed, sneered Kazuki as he uttered the activation word, causing the multitude of projectiles to explode. You idiot, we never agreed about that. What if you killed him? Hissed Hige as he waited for the smoke to clear. He's not dead, stated Hanabi. In fact, he's still sleeping. You must be shitting me, uttered Kazuki. So do we take this as a clone or as the real Baka-sensei? He asked, but he got no response. I'm going down and checking. Wait, called Hige. Stubborn ass, he muttered. He watched diligently as Kazuki disappeared into the smoke, and then reappeared several minutes later with 2 bells in his hand. Guys, I got the bells, and Baka-sensei didn't even notice. Hollered Kazuki as he held them up victoriously. Come on, let's go meet him, urged Hige, but was stopped by Hanabi. That's not Kazuki, hissed Hanabi. His coils are too large and his posture has too much of an optimistic demeanor. So what do we do? Whispered Takashi. We go back to the basics, grinned Hanabi as she made the hand signs for Bunshin no Jutsu, art of the doppelganger. Hige caught on, grinned widely, and began making the hand signs for Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu, beast human clone technique. Several seconds later, Hanabi's clone and Midorimaru jumped down from the trees and went to meet their companion. Guys, there are only 2 bells. Who do I give the other one to? The doppelganger asked. You can give both of them to me, Baka-sensei, said Kazuki as he walked out of the flames and smoke, his arms burned and looking very, very pissed. Now you can either hand the bells over to me, or you can say bye-bye to your precious body, he threatened as he brought his hands together in a sign. Tisk tisk, you brats are so demanding, sighed Naruto as he dispelled the henge. A good strategy, to place an exploding note on me while my back was turned on you. But now, I have a question for you, annoying boy, who would you have given the bell to? Whoever would offer the better deal, of course, smirked Kazuki. Wrong answer, annoying boy, retorted Naruto. Hyuga brat, dog boy, you both can come down now, the test is over, he hollered. And at that second, the timer went off, signaling the time limit. Both genin jumped down from their hiding spots, both downcast at failing the test. Naruto then passed each of them a bell, causing confusion to appear on all 3 of the children's faces. And I know that there was no exploding tag on my back, so don't try to threaten me, annoying boy. But can anyone tell me what the point of this test was? Hanabi and Hige both raised their hands. All right then, what was it? Teamwork, they said in unison, grinning. Good, I figured as much. Both of you pass the first part of the test. Annoying boy, you, however, fail. And because you failed, you will be tied to a post as you watch both of your teammates enjoy lunch, which they are forbidden to share with you, reprimanded Naruto. But, that's not fair, whined Kazuki. I'm the one who would have gotten both the bells. Yes, but you missed the entire point of the test. If any one of you wishes to become ninja, you must remember one important fact. Ninja that break the rules are trash, but those who betray their friends are less than trash, explained Naruto. He then produced two bento seemingly out of nowhere and gave one to Hanabi and the other as Hige as they went under the shade of an oak tree while Naruto tied Kazuki to the tree trunk and then went to deal with the still burning tree by walking onto a nearby pond, performing Mizu Bunshin water clone, and then sending them into the flames, effectively putting them out before Naruto disappeared in the blink of an eye. Tenten was impressed, to say the very least. Sasuke had been able to a vital point 3 times out of 10 consistently over the last hour, an achievement that beat both her and her brother's records when they just learned how to throw kunai out of the water. Sasuke, are you sure you've never thrown a kunai before? Quizzed Tenten. Yeah, I'm positive, answered Sasuke, proud at his accomplishment. Why? Is there something wrong? No, I was just wondering. Are you ready to learn how to throw shuriken now? Asked Tenten as Sasuke fetched the kunai that were embedded deeply in the training dummy. However, before anything else could happen, a loud knocking could be heard from the door. I'll be right back, Tenten said as she jogged to the front of the store, where she saw Naruto waiting impatiently at the entrance. Oh, Naruto, is your mission over yet? Asked Tenten cheerfully as she approached him. Not quite, but it'll be over soon. I came to fetch Sasuke now, though, to show him my charges, answered Naruto as he looked into Tenten's caramel-colored eyes and how they seemed to sparkle in the sunlight. Your charges? Asked Tenten, enchanted by Naruto's deep azure eyes. Yes. Ba-chan decided to make me the sensei to a squad of 3 genin behind my back and called it an A-class mission I'm not allowed to refuse, answered Naruto as he stepped closer to Tenten as the wind began to pick up, ruffling both of their outfits. I'm sure you'll be a great sensei, Naruto. Does this mean that you want me to look after Sasuke every day though? Asked Tenten. No, I couldn't ask you to do that. I was actually going to ask Hinata to look after him until she gets out of the hospital, responded Naruto as he brought his eyes away from Tenten's. You know, Naruto, I think you should ask Sasuke about attending the Ninja Academy, suggested Tenten not so subtly. I'll go get him now, she offered as she jogged back into the back and came back a few seconds later with Sasuke in tow. Thanks Tenten, you don't know how much doing this meant to me, thanked Naruto, his eyes focused on Sasuke as the young boy beamed up at him. You're right, I don't. But I want to know you, Naruto, I want to help you. Screamed Tenten in her mind. Just remember, meet me here at 5, reminded Tenten with a wink and a smile. Alright, replied Naruto, finally looking back up at Tenten and smiling. Tenten then unlocked her store and left to go tend it. Sasuke-kun, hold on to me tightly, instructed Naruto. Sasuke wordlessly complied as Naruto performed the seals for Shunshin, body flicker, and seemed to disappear, only to reappear seconds later in front of his team, that was directly disobeying his orders by feeding their teammate. Whoa, was that a jutsu? Asked Sasuke as he blinked furiously to rid the dust out of his eyes. What do you two think you're doing? Asked Naruto darkly, startling only Sasuke. We're intentionally disobeying your orders to preserve the ideals of the ninja, answered Hanabi in a textbook-like fashion. Damn it, these kids are way better than we were, the academy must finally be doing something right for once, thought Naruto, impressed at Hanabi's self-confidence in her analytical perception. Correct. You all passed the second part of the exam. Meet me back here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, waved off Naruto as he sighed. Both Hige and Hanabi thanked him and jumped into the trees, most likely heading home. Naruto then turned on Kazuki, who was still bound to the tree. So have you learned anything today, Bozu? Asked Naruto. Yeah, That your ideals suck, spat Kazuki, despite the fact that he was still constrained to a tree. Now, you should speak to your elders respectfully, Kazuki, especially the only adult around here. Which means that if I decide that you can stay tied to that tree for the rest of the day, threatened Naruto playfully as he wagged his finger at his student, who started laughing, and it wasn't a happy cheerful laughter either. You think that I'll take any of your shit? Well, let me tell you something. I don't take any shit from demons. That's right, I hear how the teachers, civilians, and your fellow ninja talk. They all say that you should be dead, that you're a demon, a monster, that, venomously patronized Kazuki. But before he could finish his sentence, a fist connected with his jaw, hard. Kazuki's assaulter's face was stoic, in no way contorted, but his eyes were a different story. His eyes held an unprecedented sensation of rage, vengeance, and malice that were outclassed only by the former Uchiha Sasuke. You will not speak of Naruto 2-san that way, ever. If you do, I'll kill you, deadpanned Sasuke as he grasped Kazuki's neck and squeezed, causing Kazuki to start gagging. So, you're so weak that you send an academy student after me? Wheezed out Kazuki, grinning. Sasuke-kun, let him go, commanded Naruto, his face completely impassive. No, he needs to be taught a lesson, retorted Sasuke as he constricted Kazuki's throat even more, making it even harder for the genin to breathe. Violence does not teach anything, Sasuke, it merely destroys. Now release him, authoritatively ordered Naruto. Sasuke reluctantly complied and hurried to follow Naruto, who was leaving the training ground. None of the three noticed as a pair of pearl gray eyes picked up every shred of conversation and movement from the three. Naruto, I take it that you're reporting in on your mission? Inquired Tsunade calmly as she watched the two people stand rigid at attention, both completely stoic. Hi, answered Naruto sharply, surprising Tsunade. I would have thought that he'd be in here complaining about his team or something, thought Tsunade with concern as she emptied her sake glass. And, what's the status? Why did you assign me to be a leader, a bunch of kids? Couldn't you have given me a really cool mission like an assassination or something? Whined Naruto as Tsunade rolled her eyes. No, she answered flatly, and then raised her hand to silence Naruto as he was about to speak again. Let me finish, brat. The reason why I gave you this mission was because if I didn't, there'd be no shot in hell of you becoming Hokage. This is so because, once a nomination is set forward, it must be then approved by the Council of Elders and the Council of Clans. If both are not passed by a majority, then the nomination is rejected, explained Tsunade. However, you have no chance of being approved by the Council of Elders. Then why the hell is this mission so important? Demanded Naruto rather loudly, which was quickly silenced by the Godime's fist colliding with the wall behind her. Because, brat, there's a slight loophole. If you can get approved unanimously by the 10 members of the Council of Clans, it overrides the decision of the elders, ground out Tsunade through her teeth. And all 3 of your students are members of a clan that holds a seat in the council that are either not in your favor or have alliances with those against your favor. So what you're saying is that the only chance that I'll have of becoming Hokage is basically sucking up to these kids' families? Demanded Naruto angrily. Unfortunately, yes, sighed Tsunade. Now report on your mission. The team shows great potential. Both Hyuga Hanabi and Inuzuka Hige show exceptional analytical and intellectual prowess and are also willing to work as a team effectively. However, Satake Kazuki has shown an opposition to work with his companions, at one point even endangering the well-being of one of them. Both Hanabi and Hige passed the first and second part of the test, while Kazuki failed both, aloofly reported Naruto. Well now Naruto, that is a problem. Because out of your 3 students, the Satake clan is the one that most strongly opposes you and wants you dead, said Tsunade. They also have strong alliances with several clans who oppose you. How does he view you? Badly, sulked Naruto at the realization that his dream may not become reality. Don't worry, brat, I doubt that he'll think that way of you for long, consoled Tsunade. And why do you have a kid with you? Naruto seemed to cheer up somewhat as he heard the question. Oh, yeah, Sasuke-kun wants to enroll in the Ninja Academy, answered Naruto. Sasuke, thought Tsunade as she reached into one of her drawers and took out several different forms. Here are all the forms you need to fill out. I need them back within the next 5 days, said Tsunade. Unless there's anything else you want to complain about, you're dismissed, said Tsunade as she poured herself another cup. Sasuke walked over to Tsunade's desk, picked up the stack of papers and muttered an arigato before following his caretaker out of the tower. So, Sasuke-kun, we have to get you a checkup, stated Naruto as they neared his apartment complex. By now the sun was near its peak, radiating an immense amount of heat on the village. A checkup? Why? Complained Sasuke. The Ninja Academy needs to have a recent database of your health, explained Naruto as they entered his complex. Why? Do you not like checkups? Asked Naruto. No, I detest them, answered Sasuke. They poke and prod in places I'd rather keep secret, admitted Sasuke as he watched Naruto unlock the door of his apartment and then opened it, to a space that was unrecognizable and under no circumstances be called a home. Sasuke-kun, I need you to go back to Tenten's shop and tell her that I'm sorry but I need her to look after you again, stoically commanded Naruto in a very quiet voice that seemed incongruous for the boisterous man. But, To-san, stammered Sasuke, too overwhelmed with a mix of anguish and disgust to properly form words. Now, repeated Naruto, much more brashly than before. Sasuke just nodded dumbly and ran as fast as he could to escape the hell that he had just seen. He felt the wind buffet his face and unwanted, salty tears fall away from his eyes, as he seemed to move in slow motion towards his destination. But finally, he reached his destination and knocked hardly and repeatedly on the door. After what seemed to be an eternity, Tenten opened the door to be welcomed by the sight of the disheveled Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, are you alright? What happened? Asked Tenten with concern as she led him into her family's apartment, which was attached to the weapon store by a back door. To-san, sorry, stay, apartment, sobbed Sasuke into Tenten's blouse. Shish, calm down. I'll make some tea and when you compose yourself you can tell me what happened, comforted Tenten, anxious as to Sasuke's sudden reappearance, along with his fragmented story. She sat him down into a wooden chair and turned on a teakettle as she patiently waited for Sasuke to calm down. Finally, after several minutes he began to calm down as Tenten served them each a mug of tea, which he graciously drank. Now tell me what's wrong, prompted Tenten, attempting to act calm, but the anxiousness was unmistakable in her words. Naruto To-san told me to come back to your shop and to tell you that he's sorry but he needs you to look after me again, shakily recited Sasuke as he took a deep sip out of the hot tea. Why are you so shaken up? Demanded Tenten, dread and fear gripping her heart. She knew that Naruto wasn't the type of person to do something like this so impersonally, and knew that something was wrong. His apartment, it was, stammered Sasuke, not knowing, or willing, to verbalize what he had seen. A hard and cold look enveloped Tenten's eyes as she immediately stood up from her seat. Sasuke-kun, stay here. My Ototo and my Ka-san are both home, they'll make sure you'll be alright, I'm going to go see Naruto, explained Tenten as she exited her shop, terror gripping her very being. Finally, she reached his apartment, all the way up on the 8th floor, the only one on the 8th floor, and knocked on the door, only to find it ajar. She then found out why Sasuke was so upset. This is horrible. So much blood, so much destruction, so much, thought Tenten as she started to visibly shake. Not much caused her to shake these days, even killing was not that much of a problem anymore, but the sight in front of her was worse than anything she would ever see on a field. Naruto, where are you? Whispered Tenten as she took a step into the boy's apartment, reading the graffiti that would permanently soil his apartment. Demon, monster, die, burn in hell, where you belong. Leave, get the hell out of Konoha. Filthy demon cur. These were only some of the things that Tenten read, and they enraged her even more than when she first stepped into the apartment. Naruto, where are you? Called Tenten. No response. She then saw that one door, at the other end of the hall, was slightly open. She then completely opened it, and found him, Uzumaki Naruto, on the burnt floor, holding a mostly charred picture. Naruto, I want to help you, said Tenten as she walked over to Naruto, scattering ashes as she walked towards him. You can't. I will. You won't. I won't make the same mistake as I did 11 years ago. I refuse your refusal to help, argued Tenten as she sat next to the impassive young man and embraced him, Sakura's words ringing through her head. It's the side that has to bear all of the weight that he takes off of us. That's the Naruto who is beaten and abused and can't stand living, it's the side of him no one wants to see. Naruto, you don't have to be alone. I choose to be alone. Why? The last words were hardly above a whisper, as Tenten brought her face close to Naruto's. To verify my own existence. By feeling pain, I know I'm alive. By knowing I'm alive, I know that I can dream. That's all I know how to do, Tenten-san. My entire life has been one fucking dream, and I have been working constantly towards that one dream. But now that dream may never come to pass. Then what will I be left with? Can you tell me that? Will you be able to help me when there's only pain to live for, the next vandalism, or the next act of scorn? Will you, Tenten? Asked Naruto, his tone getting angrier and louder with each word he spoke, until he reached a yell. Grow up, Naruto, coldly stated Tenten as she stood up to face him eye to eye. You seriously think that by isolating yourself away from others they won't see your pain? It may be true that I have no clue how bad you were abused when you were a child, or even now, as an adult, but I know how it's like to live behind a facade. I also know that they're useless, because no matter how hard you try to hide your pain, they'll see it, and they'll pity you for it. How even though they try to help, they can't, because they have no clue how you feel. But Naruto, I'm telling you this now, I know how it feels, and I can at least try and help you. Now, please, let me help you, and together, maybe, we can get through this never-ending dream and find peace at the end, offered Tenten, as silent tears snaked down her cheeks. The two stood facing each other, each a mirror of the other, as they each tried to stare into the other's soul. Finally, Naruto broke the silence. Tenten, how far are you willing to go to help me? Asked Naruto. As far as you need me to go, answered Tenten, mentally preparing herself for the revelation of the cause of Naruto's angst. You can leave if you're disgusted with me after I tell you, Tenten-san, said Naruto. No, Naruto-san, I would never abandon anyone in need of help. That is my nindo, answered Tenten. You know how about the Kyuubi attack 19 years ago? Asked Naruto, his eyes filled with apprehension. Yes, nervously answered Tenten. He still lives, Tenten. And he lives within me, sealed by the Yondaime Hokage himself as his final act of service to the village, said Naruto, as he showed Tenten the seal that was imprinted on his abdomen. Tenten was not prepared for that.